When I first got here, I didn't expect to feel so lost. This place, a concrete jungle where every building, every hallway looks the same when you don't know where you're going. At some point, you realize this place is kind of a bubble, a practice world. But this bubble cannot stop the real world from bleeding in.
Let's discuss this more and just ask the simple question whether we're losing the fight against gender-based violence in this country.
A man accused of raping two Nelson Mandela University students.
Businesswoman Andy Kawa was gang raped on a beach in Port Elizabeth.
Even though victims in South Africa say they feel let down by the police. Where tens of thousands of women.
Where do you go? Who do you speak to? And the real world has touched you, personally. I'd heard about the Transformation Office in passing, but never really sat down to think about what they do. Now, I need to find out. I began my exploration with the director of the Transformation Office. Could you please introduce yourself, your name, and who you are within the Transformation Office?
Okay, so my name is Ruby Ann Levendal. I'm director of the Transformation Office, and I was employed at the university in 1996 as an academic, and then I transitioned to the Transformation Office in 2007. And the reason for my transition was really just based on passion. I'm passionate about academia and I'm passionate about social justice.
Why is it important to have a Transformation Office?
You know, this model was contentious initially because it makes the Transformation Office as the owner of transformation, which it is not. It is really the one that coordinates or for reporting purposes gets the information together and generates reports, and then obviously also for policy formulations. So as much as there is a Transformation Office, it is more geared at social inclusion, advocacy work, and then obviously also reporting and policy formulation.
Let's say someone has never heard of a Transformation Office. What would you want them to know?
I think referring to my the question that I just answered, is to know that there are policies in place that promotes social inclusion, promotes equality, and if the experience is contrary to that, that they have an avenue via which they can lodge a complaint, and that our office is impartial. We don't take sides. Through our investigations, we then make recommendations to the relevant officers if there is a prima facie case to be accounted for.
The Transformation Office so far is made up of 4 pillars: Mandela Pride, Singamadoda, redefining positive masculinity, Memeza, anti-GBV, equality promotion and social inclusion. Each one of these pillars focuses on tackling different sets of challenges that show up within their spaces. In this exploration, I thought I should start by looking into Mandela Pride. In South Africa, even after legal protections and public pride marches, being queer does not always translate to safety or visibility.
The lived reality for many queer individuals remains dangerous and exclusionary, and despite legal milestones like the decriminalization of same-sex relationships.
University has always been spoken about as this place and time where you begin to find yourself. But queer students, that journey doesn't always come easy. So Ubuntu, let's start here. What does Mandela Pride concern itself with?
So Mandela Pride, it's all about advocacy work that promotes equality, inclusivity of the queer community within the university and also just the broader society. This mainly entails doing sensitization work to management, to student leaders, to raise students or anyone that's actually interested, and also just having what we call safe spaces or growth support groups for the LGBTQI community.
From your experience working in this space, what difference do you think Mandela Pride has made in the environment at NMU?
With the LGBTQI plus group being very marginalized, discriminated, isolated, it's very important to create a space that is very welcoming, very inclusive for the LGBTQI community, so they also feel welcomed and also part of the university's environment or community.
Across the world, and especially here in South Africa, there is a really strong idea of what it means to be a man. An idea that does not leave much space for you if you don't fit into that mold. And instead, it just gets passed down and repeated with no questions asked. These ideas are not just confined inside people, they force themselves out. What does Singamadoda concern itself with?
Our understanding of patriarchy, of course, and also our understanding of masculinities, and we try to club our understanding of patriarchy with our understanding of masculinities, because we think that the challenge we are faced with, of course, in our country today and also in the world, is the challenge of, patriarchal masculinities, which is the ones, of course, which are also associated with the perpetuation of gender-based violence. So our role is to make people aware of the some of the things that patriarchy denies them, which is, of course, to express who you are, which perpetuates the issue of violence, because patriarchy is sustained through violence. Patriarchy is sustained, of course, through psychological terrorism. What we do and the transformation of to challenge that patriarchal narrative or that patriarchal attitude, to say, look, you don't have to be dominating at all the times. Sometimes, of course, you have to show some vulnerability, because for you to show vulnerability also, it takes a lot of strength. So if you show vulnerability, of course, does not necessarily mean that you are weak.
Why are conversations about redefining masculinity so important?
We are able to build a society in a progressive way if we welcome conversations. There's a saying that I carry with throughout all my days: it's to be teachable. Where you start is important, but where you're going and what you go through and the learning process to your life as a person is important. We need to have conversations, not only just about masculinity, about femininity as well. Holistically building a society that makes life sustainable for everyone. Why do we cause the drama? We can do society and live in society in a peaceful manner if we're teachable. Yeah.
Lastly, what are some of the initiatives within Singamadoda you would like to bring awareness to?
With redefining positive masculinities, what we do is that we conduct sessions in residences. Of course, when you start with a particular residence, that resident will focus on 6 sessions, which, of course, one of the session, which is session 1, it's understanding masculinities, and the second session will be building healthy relationships, and the third session will be about gender globalization, and the fourth session will be about embracing the democratic values of our constitution. And the fifth session, which, of course, is inclusive of both males and females, which is a co-creating a human eye, and safe space. And of course, the sixth session, which is the establishment of a reading group, or what we call a growth group, which is, of course, we discuss all the contemporary challenges that we are faced with in our country.
South Africa, statistically, is one of the most violent places in the world. We are referred to as the rape capital of the world. And what's worse is that that's just based on cases that's been reported. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if by any time you're watching this, something new has already happened. This is our reality, and university spaces aren't exempt from this. How does this pillar help GBV victims?
We provide individual counseling for GBV survivors, specifically sexual violence-related incidences, sexual harassment, discrimination, equality issues among students, and creating awareness around that.
So, what steps should one take after they have been sexually assaulted?
Okay. The first step is to go to a hospital, right? Especially in the case of rape, where they need to go to a Tutuzela care center where a rape kit will be done in order to preserve evidence. And then secondly, they should log a case via their student portal and give further details on their statement. Then they're referred for counseling with myself. Perhaps the student is presenting with more complex trauma. Then they're referred to AIA Alumni in Action, which is an initiative that provide 8 free counseling sessions with the psychologist, a clinical or counseling psychologist, that is for free. If a student is in need of academic intervention as well, then the case coordinator can arrange that. If there's a need for a change of residences, then the case coordinator also assists the student with that.
What initiatives and intervention strategies does this pillar have?
Amanda Memeza has individual counseling, which is offered by the GBD counselor, which is yours truly, and also the AIA Alumni in Action Initiative. That's where the students with more complex trauma are referred to, as well as aftercare classes. The Transformation Office also has support groups that offers a more educational environment with an element of sport in it as well.
EPSI is a pillar that has a thread running through each one of the previous pillars spoken about. Working to challenge unconscious biases, promote equality, and make the university ultimately feel like a place that actively works in making space for all the diverse individuals that it houses. What does EPSI concern itself with?
So it concerns itself mostly with awareness, advocacy, training, as well as research on the different grounds of unfair discrimination, which would include sex, gender, ethnicity, or national origin. So we conduct both staff and student training, as well as advocacy and awareness campaigns. We're also quite big on seminars, workshops, and dialogues on the different manifestations of discrimination.
What are some of the issues dealt with within this pillar?
Okay, so the major issues that we deal with are equality-related complaints. So those are issues that are linked to unfair discrimination, as I mentioned, which the EPSI project deals with in a broad way based on 16 of the prohibited grounds. So we deal with equality-related complaints that are based or linked to those grounds. So if a person has encountered unfair discrimination on the basis of their religion or their culture, or on the basis of their ethnicity or their race or their sex or their gender, that is particularly the type of reports or complaints that would be sent to the Transformation Office. So our pillar then is there to educate on those different forms or manifestations of unfair discrimination, and to also look at what the root causes of those are. So we have training known as unconscious bias, where we try to unearth or more or less zoom into what are some of the biases that we hold, and how then do those shape or grow into or morph into discrimination.
Could you please introduce yourself and what you do with the Transformation Office?
Okay, so my name is Bidzai Chandisaita Puturek. I am the Social Justice Mediator for the Transformation Office.
What is social justice mediation and what does it concern itself with?
People always think that mediation is a westernized concept. It is not. We've always had indigenous mediation. We've always had traditional mediation. So what we're basically doing right now is trying to grow the concept, because everything seems to have to be written down. We're trying to grow the concept and create awareness so that students and staff, because remember, we support students and staff, understand that instead of taking the route of a disciplinary hearing, there is this alternative dispute resolution that, number one, aligns with the policies of the university, aligns with the values of the university, Ubuntu, social justice, equality. So all those things are important when we deal with mediation. So we are creating awareness that people know that the Transformation Office has this pillar hopefully this new pillar that would allow parties that are probably afraid to take this disciplinary hearing option, that they can come to us and say, okay, I need to be heard.
Delving deeper into the Transformation Office, I found that these conversations surrounding the different issues they deal with don't just stop at the offices. These branches within the Transformation Office are ongoing efforts. Their work ultimately stretches beyond the walls and time of the university.
Background story, Nkulele Zambili. There's not much that happens there. Zambili is in the north part of KZN. It's a rural area, Makai. There's not much that goes on there. But we hardly bring these things and conversations there. And someday, I want to take it back home. When I came to NMU, it was only for a qualification. And I'm proud to say that I'm going to leave this institution one day learned so much about inclusivity, about transformation, about building a society, about storytelling. I'm learning a lot about Ubuntu. What that office is about is mostly just about how to practice Ubuntu in your daily life. You know, we don't have to kill. We don't have to be unkind to people. We can do life so seamlessly. And we have a lot that goes on, but particularly I'll speak to what I deal with mostly. We have an Amanda Meneza production that seeks on telling a story about a young girl which was raped within the institution at Nelson Mandela University. We're exploring that now, telling more stories of more students. We also have a podcast that's coming in the second semester, Leveled Perspectives, which basically deals on informing students and staff matters about the complexities of life, even within the institution.
Maybe that's what makes this work being done within the office so significant. The fact that they are able to reshape the people who pass through them.